to Photoshop Chapter 3 using mask and channels. We're on lesson 3.2 part 2. And in this lesson we're going to cover the type mask tool as well as ways to use vector paths as guides for flowing text. And one thing that you need to note is this is sort of a deviation because we're crossing into another area using the type tool basically, and our chapter 4 covers working with the type and vector tools, and so chapter 3 and 4 kind of work together, and this is kind of a bridge point here. So we're going to start with how do we use the type mask tool. One thing to keep in mind with your type mask tool is what you're doing with it is you're creating a selection of text to work with rather than text itself. So whatever you type with the type mask tool is going to be treated as a selection, so you can do things to it as a selection. And so let's just move ahead. Here we go. I'm going to create a layer from background just to, I don't like the limitations of that background layer, so there we go. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to choose my type mask tool by coming to my toolbox, clicking, holding, and going to my horizontal. You can use vertical as well, but right now I want to use a horizontal. Vertical works the same way, but the letters go up and down as opposed to side to side. Okay, so now I've got that chosen. What I want to do now up in my options bar is go ahead and choose my font size, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to stick with, let me try this elephant, and you can drop that down and see I'm going to go with italic. You may not have options here depending on your font. And then I'm going to choose a size, and I think I'm going to stick with that 55. I can choose my anti-aliasing effects. I can have none, sharp, crisp, strong, smooth. I'm going to go with smooth. I can choose my text orientation. If I was going to go all the way across, I'd probably choose center, but I'm going to put Sioux Falls right here just to show you a thing or two. And I could choose color, which right now is not going to matter, but it comes up later. And then I also have the option to warp my text or, change anything with the character and character and paragraph control panels here. But I'm just going to click in my image here, and wherever I want to type, and when I do, it's going to turn my image red because basically it's a rubylith, kind of showing me, hey, you're creating a layer mask, so to speak, but really I'm creating a selection. Don't forget that. So I'm going to type Sioux Falls. Once I have that typed, you can see that the falls in the background are coming through my letters, and I can select my text by either dragging over it or Control A. When I hold Control, my box here shows up, and I can click, hold, and move my box around to move my selection wherever I want. Now, anything I want to change with my text, change now. I'm going to warp my text. Give it, let's see. I'm going to give it a fisheye. And there we go. Now, I can change the bend, change the horizontal or vertical distortion. I'm going to leave it as is. Click OK. And now I could come in and toggle my character or paragraph panels and make any changes here that I want. Right now my letters seem to be pretty good in terms of spacing, but I could space it some more, maybe come up to 125% there. And don't forget, once you do that, see, I need to move it. So I'm going to hit Control and click and drag so that this is going to be on my text. Now it's a little close to my person. So I could click in here and hit Enter, and then hold Control and move it back over. So now I can see what I've got, and any changes I want to make now, again, I can Control A, select the text again, make any changes. Once you accept this by clicking outside, choosing a new tool, or hitting Enter, or clicking your check mark button there, then you are moving into the realm of a selection, at which point you're going to not be able to deal with the text itself. However, you can make changes to the selection like you would any selection you make in Photoshop. Now, keep in mind again, as I said, right now this is a selection. It is not a layer mask. To make it a layer mask, I would actually have to click layer mask. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this. And there we go. Now my text is a selection. So I can now change anything with that selection that you would any other selection. For example, I want to put a stroke around this because I want the inside of my letters to show the falls, but I want the letters to actually be kind of visible. I'm going to choose, I don't think 20 pixels is what I'm going for. I'm going to go with something a little finer, say 3. And I'm going to go with a darker color here, a dark purple. Click OK. And once I click OK here, I can also choose my location, blending, opacity, all this. But I'm happy with what this is. I want it to be on the outside. I click OK, and there I have it. Now, I can deselect, Control D, or go to select, deselect. If, you know, hey, if I'm happy here, I can just deselect, and there we go. Now, I can reselect this, and then I could make some other changes. For example, let's say that I want to, I'm going to go ahead and reselect, and I'm going to add a new layer. Now, I'm going to select that layer, and I'm going to just render me some clouds here. There we go. Now, notice what happened. It changed the inside of that selection. Okay, so now I no longer have the falls inside. I have the rendering because I created a new layer. Now I'm going to go back in my history and undo that and just click on reselect. Now, what if I added a layer mask here? Well, if I add a layer mask now, I have no other layer. So I'm going to click layer mask. It's going to block everything else out. And what you're going to see is Sioux Falls with the falls inside. Okay, maybe I want to use that. And now what I could do is actually select, make a new layer here. And render those clouds, or, you know, whatever it is I want to do. I could just render those clouds again, or I could, you know, make some other thing. I'm going to drag it underneath, and now what I have is Sioux Falls on top of that layer with that falls, you know, inside my letters. So there's all kinds of things you can do with it because you're making it a selection, but then you can make it into a layer mask. You can turn that selection into a layer mask, because I can also come back up here and I can delete this layer mask. Let's see if this works. I'm going to say no, delete it. Now, here I am back here. Let's see if it's going to let me reselect, and it will. Now I can inverse. Okay, so now everything's selected but my layers. And with that, I could create a layer mask. And if I do that, it's going to show Sioux Falls on my image as opposed to the other way we did it a moment ago. So, like I said, it's all kinds of things you can do with that type mask tool. It's a great tool. You just have to give it a little thought as to what you're trying to achieve. You know, what do you want to show here? Are you just trying to type Sioux Falls with an outline? Are you trying to put your text here with another, you know, something else inside on top of the image? So you need a layer underneath that it will choose, that it will select from, and, you know, create your layer mask from your selection or whatnot. Okay, so there's your type mask tool. Pretty much that's it. Now let's talk about paths and creating paths and typing text on those paths. Okay, first, let's go to our shape tool. We're going to do it first because, you know, we can do it with the pen tool. We can do it with the shape tool. Whatever it is, we're creating a path. So I'm going to hit custom shape tool, And I'm just going to go up here and select this one here, just because it's the one I choose. Make sure too that you're on your path mode here, and you really need to be on this first. I would say just exclude. That's fine. Okay, now I'm going to draw my shape. There I go. And once I do that, I'm going to click on my type tool, and I can choose horizontal, vertical, whatever. Horizontal is probably the best way to go here. And then I'm just going to go and click, and then I'm going to begin typing. Type on path. Now, once you see that, it creates another text layer, and it types it on that. And if I keep going, it's going to type all the way around that whole shape there. Then I can Control A or drag over, click, hold, and drag over my type, and I can do anything in my options bar up here, from change the color to center it, to anti-aliasing, just like we did before. I can make it 3D, which changes things all together. And let's see, go to my new type layer and click on my type tool, click in there so I can select it, change, let's see, I need my size to go down a little bit. Let's hit 36 point. So basically that's it there. You type on the path, you can make any changes you wish up in your options bar, all the way up to 3D, which is really cool, by the way, as you could see. I didn't want to get into that in this lesson. Something for you to play around with, though. Now, I'm going to go back and start over here just for my untitled. That was typing on a path. What about the pen tool? Pen tool, same thing. When you select the pen tool, make sure you're on the path. And then once you click, click, hold, and drag. And again, pen tool is something we cover in another lesson. And, just for now, I'm just going to make a shape here. And there we go. Now, once I have my path drawn, I can put a stroke on my path, or I could leave the stroke off so that all you saw, I could click on my text and type on a path, select my path tool, and now hide that path. And then that way you could get your type any way you wanted, but never show the path. Now, I also have the option of showing that path by stroking that path. So let me start again, grabbing my pen tool. And again, I'm just going to quickly throw something together here. I'm not really worried about, Here we go. Now, to stroke this, I can either right click, or I can go to my paths panel and click stroke the path. But first, you need to make sure to choose your brush tool and what you want the path to have. Okay, for instance, what kind of stroke do you want it to have? Do you want this? Do you want to make a different set of... Here, let me try some assorted brushes, and I'm just going to replace these. See what I have here. And I'm going to choose this one, and I can choose my size. Once I got that done, I can go over to my brush dynamics, and I can check that, and I can come over to my controls, and I can turn that to fade, so that I can set this number. You have to kind of play with it a little bit, and it shows you a little bit down here, right? There's 25, so it's going to fade it out like you were drawing and your marker ran out of ink kind of look. And I'm just type 100, see what you get there. And, if you want to stroke the whole thing, obviously you're going to leave that off, not even worry about it. And then click on stroke path with brush. And look, you could barely see it there. So now I want to say, you know what, let me undo that, Control Z, and go back and type in 400. And that gives me a little bit more there. And I'm going to stroke that path again. And again, because I chose the brush that I did, it's a little thin. So you keep working with that. You can even change your brush. I'm going to be like, well, you know what? I need a thicker brush. Let me try pumping that up a little bit. And now let me stroke that path. And there we go. And now, again, with the path selected, Control-Shift-H hides that path. And then I can choose my type tool. Got to be on that layer. There we go. Type selection, path selection, and then once your path is selected, choose your type tool, click on it, and then type, and preferably spell it right, on a path, and there you go. And again, I can select my type and, you know, come into whatever, spread it out, get my paragraph tools, because maybe I want to spread my words out a little bit more. Let's make that 175. And there we go. Look, that took the whole path there. And then click outside. And again, I'll hide that path. And there you go. Now I've got a bit of a stroke underneath it. Make sure you're on your right layer. Okay, in this case, I drew that path on the background layer. And I'm going to select that path by getting my arrow tool, path selection tool, the black arrow, clicking on it. There we go. All right. Once I click on my path, I can make all kinds of changes to that path by, you know, going back to my brushes and selecting and adding to. And remember, this is a work path. I can make it a permanent path to keep reselecting by dragging this down to, you know, create a new path. And there you go. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, how to type on a path. And you can use the shape tool, the pen tool, any of those things. And then, of course, apply all your different options in your options bar, your colors, that kind of stuff. And then, you know, like I said, just keep remembering that to select, you've got to be on the right layer, using that black arrow. Those kinds of things kind of throw you off sometimes, as you can see. And just hang in there, keep trying anything, trying all these different things and playing with it. And good luck, have fun with it.